Everyone should have heard of India's Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project. This high-speed rail line, which was jointly built by Japan, has taken a full 10 years, but it has not been completed yet. It was not until October last year that India decided to reinitiate the tender and especially hoped that Chinese companies could participate. But unexpectedly, China refused to participate in the project at that time, and even most other countries in the world did not show interest. Interestingly, after China rejected the project, India could only turn its willingness to cooperate to Japan. In March of this year, India announced that it was considering using Japan's next-generation Shinkansen E10 series trains to complete this high-speed rail project. According to the new plan, India will purchase 10 24-carriage trains, and according to the manufacturing revitalization policy, some trains are required to be manufactured in India. According to the plan, this line will start partial operation in 2027. However, surprisingly, Japan's E10 series trains are still in the PPT stage and have not even started testing. So, can India's new high-speed rail project be successfully completed? Why did China choose to reject India's request for a high-speed rail project? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. As early as 2012, India proposed the Diamond Quadrilateral Development Plan, planning to connect the major cities of Delhi and Mumbai with high-speed rail. According to the government's plan, the initial construction cost was expected to be 1 trillion rupees. The railway would be about 508 kilometers long and have 12 stations. If the project is successfully completed, India will have its first high-speed rail, and the travel time from Mumbai to Ahmedabad is expected to be reduced from more than 6 hours to just 2 hours. In order to promote this plan, India then launched a tender to railway countries around the world. It is worth noting that at that time, China, as a newly started high-speed rail technology power, hoped to enhance its influence in the field of high-speed rail through this cooperation. So, in 2013, China and India signed a memorandum on the introduction of high-speed rail technology, and the two sides began planning for railway construction. However, surprisingly, Japan, as the country with the most advanced high-speed rail technology in the world at that time, suddenly proposed to help India build a better high-speed rail. Even more tempting is that Japan is willing to provide India with a low-interest loan of $33.5 billion, with an annual interest rate of only 1,000th. That is, only $137 in interest per year. Faced with such favorable conditions, India finally decided to approve Japan to build India's first high-speed railway. The Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed railway project in 2015 and introduced Japan's most advanced 320 kilometers per hour Shinkansen technology. The total cost of the entire project is expected to exceed $14 billion, of which the Indian central government will provide about $1.15 billion. The governments of Gujarat and Maharashtra will each pay $570 million, and the remaining 80% will be financed by obtaining a loan from Japan with an annual interest rate of 0.1%. It was not until 2017 that the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed railway project was finally officially launched and scheduled to be completed in 2022. Unexpectedly, due to the complexity of local land acquisition issues in India, the project did not really start until 2021, and the progress was extremely slow. According to the engineers of the project, due to the delay of land acquisition issues in 2022, only about 30% of the high-speed rail land was expropriated, and the construction of the entire project had only completed 10 kilometers at that time. It was not until early 2023 that the land required for the project was finally expropriated, after which the construction of the high-speed rail gradually entered a stage of intensive construction. However, despite the resolution of the land issue, by 2024, the completion rate of the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project was still only about 25.6%. This development not only caused protests from local residents in India, but also made the railway a laughingstock in the international community. Under tremendous pressure, Japan proposed to India that it could seek other countries to take over the project. So at the end of 2024, India reinitiated the bidding and hoped that China could take over the project. According to my investigation, the bidding information reinitiated by India has increased from the initial tens of billions of dollars to 100 billion US dollars and invited countries with high-speed rail technology to bid. In addition, India specifically expressed the hope that China would participate in the bidding. It can be said that this actually implies that as long as China is willing to participate, the project will basically belong to China. However, what is surprising is that China rejected this request without hesitation, and even other countries around the world did not show any interest in participating. So why did China refuse to cooperate with India? In fact, this is closely related to some unreasonable demands made by India. Since the construction of a Shinkansen started, some Indian companies have put pressure on relevant Japanese companies through various means to try to lower the price. For example, India originally planned to purchase 24 trains and agreed to pay 9.6 billion US dollars, but the price of Japanese companies was lowered to 8 billion US dollars. India even asked Japanese companies to build factories in India, otherwise they would not pay the full amount, and asked for a 2.1 billion US dollar interest-free loan for factory construction. In addition, India also asked the contracting country to provide loan support of 80% of the total order amount. If these conditions of India are accepted, it means that India only needs to pay 20% of the funds for the project, and the remaining 80% of the costs will be borne by other countries. It can be said that these unreasonable requirements of India not only make China hesitate to undertake the project, but even Japan is looking for various reasons to abandon the project. In fact, before 2021, India had introduced a retroactive taxation policy. That is, a new tax law introduced today can be traced back to certain periods in the past to trace taxes on companies. In other words, this system allows India to impose tax penalties on almost any company, and almost no company can escape the risk of retroactive taxation. Combined with these various problems, I believe everyone can understand why China did not hesitate to reject this $100 billion high-speed rail project. It is worth noting that after China refused to participate in the project, India could only pin its last hope on Japan. After all, the two sides have signed a contract, and no one is willing to take responsibility for the failure of the project. Therefore, India still hopes that Japan can complete the project. At present, the overall construction progress of the project has reached 44%. Of the 508-kilometer line, 183 kilometers of viaducts and 313 kilometers of bridge piers have been completed. By March 2025, the Indian government said it was considering incorporating Japan's next-generation Shinkansen E10 series trains into the high-speed rail project and planned to put them into use first on some completed high-speed rail lines. India plans to purchase 10 24-carriage trains and requires some trains to be manufactured in India in accordance with its manufacturing revitalization policy. India hopes that by purchasing this new generation of high-speed trains from Japan, it will be able to promote the smooth progress of the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project. According to my investigation, the maximum speed of the E10 series trains remains at 320 kilometers per hour, and the speed has not increased, and it is still a 10-carriage train. In addition, the next generation Shinkansen has a cargo delivery door on Car 5 for smoother cargo loading and unloading, which can improve the flexibility of cargo loading and unloading services at various stations along the way. The E10 series will also use the technology verified in the LFAX test platform to prevent derailment by implementing L-shaped vehicle guides as earthquake countermeasures and adopt lateral shock absorbers to shorten the braking distance and absorb the shaking during earthquakes to prevent vehicle damage and derailment, thereby improving overall safety. It can be seen that this is undoubtedly the most advanced high-speed rail technology in Japan. But what is shocking is that the E10 Shinkansen train is a new generation of high-speed rail train launched by JR East, and the train itself has not yet been put into use. When the Indian Ministry of Railways announced the purchase of the E10 series trains, JR East engineers were busy at the test site outside Tokyo. The model was originally scheduled to be put into use on the Tohoku Shinkansen in Japan in 2030, and it has not even passed the simulation test of the hot and dusty environment. What is even more surprising is that India intends to leapfrog the technological gap and requires Hitachi and Kawasaki Heavy Industries to complete the transformation of the India Special Edition trains by 2027, and also requires 50% local production. This is just like asking an apprentice who has just learned to assemble a bicycle to build a space shuttle. The more fatal problem is that the E10 series trains need to adapt to India's 2x 25 kV power supply system. But in the current test section, the poles have a 15% tilt error. At present, this E10 Shinkansen train is still in the PPT stage. Whether it can be manufactured on time, whether its performance can meet the standards, and whether it can be compatible with India's existing infrastructure are still unknown. If successful, this BML train may become a replacement for Japan's Shinkansen trains. But if there are problems, India's high-speed rail dream may have to wait. Then, some experts analyzed that India originally planned to use Japan's E5 series Shinkansen trains on the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail line, but now plans to skip this generation and use the more advanced E10 series. This plan of the Modi government is actually to use high-tech Shinkansen trains that have not yet been mass-produced to divert domestic conflicts. After the 2024 general election, Japan's 0.1% ultra-low interest loan policy has aroused doubts from the whole people, and this project has long become a political burden. Therefore, the decision to replace it with the E10 series is essentially a carefully designed technical project, using future technology concepts to cover up current failures and defeats. In contrast, China's CR450 EMU has achieved a test run at a speed of 450 kilometers per hour, becoming the world's fastest high-speed train. Today, the relevant team is conducting a series of scientific tests and performance verifications, with the goal of paving the way for the commercial operation of EMU. During the development of CR450, researchers did a lot of basic work in the early stage and are expected to complete all the tests within 2 years. This progress means that China's high-speed rail technology is moving towards higher speeds and higher efficiency. It can be said that Indonesia's Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail project took 5 years and has taught India a lesson in infrastructure miracle. If India had chosen to cooperate with China and adopted the model of full industrial chain output plus localized training, the 2-hour commuting circle from Mumbai to Ahmedabad might have been realized today. Unfortunately, today Indian engineers are still worried about the conflict between ECS L2 and Japan's leaky cable system, while China's standards have already successfully obtained the high-speed rail technology agreement of 6 Southeast Asian countries. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.